Your tire is filled with the atmospheric molecules. 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen and 1% argon and all the rest of the trace elements. With nitrogen, you get, instead of that plug, you get a green plug, just to represent that you have nitrogen, 100% nitrogen in your tires. You don't have to, if you don't have nitrogen, you already have 78% nitrogen in your tires. But nitrogen-filled tires takes out the oxygen, the 21% oxygen, and puts in 100% nitrogen in your tires. Oxygen is a smaller molecule, smaller atom than nitrogen, just very small, like minute difference. I'll have a visual explanation. Okay, 78% of your tire in the atmosphere is nitrogen, 21% is oxygen, and the rest is the trace elements. And now, nitrogen tires, the pros, there's no escaping atoms. Oxygen atoms are smaller than nitrogen, so they can escape through the tire. Another pro is you get a green cap, a green plug or whatever. And then there's no corrosion because oxygen loves hydrogen to form water or vapor or whatever, and oxygen, just the oxygen molecule alone, has just a proponent to it that likes to corrode with other materials when it comes in contact. Cons of nitrogen tires, you might have to pay a higher price. I'll have an oral explanation of me talking about it. So this is nitrogen tires explained. People talk about putting nitrogen in their tires. This is what they're talking about. A regular tire has what you have in the atmosphere or whatever. It's already 78% nitrogen and like 21% oxygen, and like the rest, the last 1% is like argon and like a bunch of elements or whatever. So you have nitrogen 78 and oxygen 21%. Molecularly, the oxygen atom is smaller than the nitrogen atom. It's very minute, but the oxygen molecules the atoms, the millions, billions of atoms or whatever, are smaller than the millions, billions of nitrogen atoms. Just the atom alone is smaller than the nitrogen. So the oxygen molecule can escape through the walls of the tire easier than the nitrogen can. So it goes to say, if you put 100% nitrogen in your tires with no oxygen, then you'll keep air in your tires for longer, but you'll pay a higher price to have your tires filled with nitrogen. Also, a downside of having oxygen in your tires is oxygen molecule likes to bond with hydrogen or whatever to make water or whatever. When you have water and there's metal, there's corrosion. So you got a minuscule amount of corrosion. You have escaping oxygen molecules that want to get out of the tire because they're smaller and they can creep through the elements in the tire or whatever. They can just weave their way through. And also here's the oxygen molecule atoms or whatever are more susceptible to the different pressures, the atmospheric pressures outside. Like if you have like a low pressure system coming through or a high pressure system coming through or whatever, or if it's cold outside or if it's hot outside, an atom will react to that kind of condition a lot more than the nitrogen atom for some reason. But you have to pay extra for the nitrogen tires. So that's nitrogen. And people would put nitrogen in your tires. You get a nice little green cap on your tires too. So that's I guess that's a benefit or whatever. But you can make your own if you want to. But is it worth the price? Oxygen molecules can just escape out of the tire. It can go through the material or whatever. Whereas nitrogen has a harder time escaping, and you don't lose as much air. Now, oxygen loves to bond with other elements, which can come out to corrode, can cause corrosion inside of your wheel. Also, oxygen is very susceptible to different pressures and temperature extremes. Like the wintertime, it gets cold outside, the molecules in the air are moving slower, hence the lower temperature, which you have a slower moving molecules. They want to go slow. They actually want to stand still. You roll a ball down a hill, it'll go fast going down the hill, but it'll eventually come to a stop eventually. Molecules want to come to a stop, or they want to go in one direction forever or whatever. But anyway, it's potential energy and kinetic energy. You have the kinetic energy, the molecules flying around really fast. They're going to experience friction, they're going to bounce off each other, they're going to eventually slow down. That's just it's just physics or whatever. So the oxygen atom or whatever, when there's a low pressure, not low pressure, but when there's a low temperature, lower speed outside, and it's high inside the tire, and when it escapes to the lower speed, that's what it wants to do. It wants to rest. It wants to go outside of the tire and just chill. It wants to chill. Everything wants to chill. Nobody can run around. You can't run around all day. You can't. You get tired. You'll get tired. You want to slow down, and you want to go to sleep. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed my nitrogen tire. What are nitrogen tire explanation? So, hey, this is Mad Human Pizza. Yeah.